catch up on previous parts by clicking the playlist linked in the description. The next morning, Felix would come into the room, informing Claude his guest had arrived. Claude took one look at Athy sleeping peacefully before leaving, and as he left, she woke up, wondering where her papa had gone. Before Claude, Duke Alpheus claimed it was necessary to choose a study companion for Athy, supposedly for the sake of the kingdom's future. And of course, the Duke definitely had someone in mind. Seeing the princess's magic had yet to awaken, he proposed his son, Ezekiel, to be the most suited. Athy discreetly watched from above, and upon seeing the Duke, she gasped in shock. In her dreams, Duke Alpheus used Jeanette to increase his standing. Ezekiel was his only son, who desperately fell in love with Jeanette, and now he was to be her study companion? Athy wondered if the Duke was trying to garner favor with her father, especially now that he loved her. She would interrupt the Duke's praises of his son, saying Athy was scared when she woke up and didn't see her father. Upon seeing her, Duke Alpheus gave her quite the nasty look. Claude then called her to sit on his lap, and the Duke properly greeted her, while bringing up his suggestion of the study companion. She began probing him about how well-read his son was, and when he found it difficult to answer, Athy let him know she didn't want a study companion who was dumber than her. The Duke would reply though his son wasn't the best academically, Ezekiel was already able to use magic. But Claude would stop him there, after seeing Athy was not pleased. He would go on to say one noisy child was more than enough for him, so he decided they would continue this conversation some other time. Later, Athanasia ran to the woods, where she had a lot of books and potions. In her hand was a celestial model, capable of reading magical energy. The more latent magical energy it sensed, the faster it would spin. But when she tested it on herself, it barely moved. Both her parents could wield magic well, but it seemed she barely had any magic at all. Over in town 2 years later, Lillian would stop her carriage to buy some fruits for the princess. The vendors around who saw this believed Claude really loved his daughter, and rumors began spreading that he had accepted her as the next in line to rule the Obelia Empire. Luca, who was watching nearby, saw Lillian and found it intriguing since she was supposed to have died. He wondered who could have possibly changed her fate, and then used magic to trace the person that had done this. Back in the palace, Athy recited a poem flawlessly, while her father and the maids were all charmed by how well she read. Duke Alpheus then walked in, and Athy wasn't the least bit happy to see him. He was still pushing the motion for her to have a study companion even after 2 years. This time, he proposed someone new who was the same age as her, and it was Jeanette. As she heard the name, she wondered what exactly was happening. She thought maybe Duke Alpheus was scheming to get Jeanette closer to her father. Since Jeanette had studied law, Alpheus felt the princess was lacking in that area. But she proved him wrong. She scoffed, telling the Duke he was so silly, and asking him if he was trying to tease her. She began quoting different articles of the Obelian Empire's Code of Law. Section 1, Article 1. The use of black magic was prohibited. Article 2. Keep justice in your heart and do not oppress the weak. Article 3. Extend a helping hand to those in distress. And Article 4. Be ever faithful to the Emperor and do not ever deceive him. She got the Duke to apologize pretty quickly for ever doubting her studiousness. She then pointed out the different things she sought in a study companion, and then gave the Duke a poetry book for Jeanette. And seeing Athy's scribbled name on top, left the Duke speechless. She would then pat his head like a dog, and subtly reminded him that she didn't want dim-witted friends. Before leaving, Claude gave Athy a book she had asked for, while Duke Alpheus, on the other hand, would mention he looked forward to his next encounter with the princess. The princess feared she'd be sacrificed for the prosperity of the Duke's house if Jeanette and Ezekiel were to come. What frustrated her more was she couldn't do a single thing when it came to magic. The book she collected from her father was the oldest grimoire in the Obelia Empire. It had lots of old spells, and the one she was interested in particular was an ancient spell for awakening magic power. So, Athy drew a magic circle on the ground and chanted the spell. The book would slowly levitate, then fly away, leading her right to Lucas, who uttered he'd found the one who manipulates fate. Looking at him, she compared his beauty to that of a doll. Now seeing that she was just a child, he apologized, thinking he must have found the wrong person. As Felix came looking for Athy, the mage casted a spell that caused him to turn back. The princess asked for her book back, and Lucas would warn her not to chant the spell to the end because it was extremely dangerous. Tossing her book back, he quickly vanished. By evening, Athy explained to Felix that he was controlled by someone suspicious, but he didn't understand what she was saying. Later, Felix asked Claude to allow Athy to have some friends of her age. He probably thought she was hallucinating earlier, but Claude found Felix and others incompetent for not being able to soothe one child. Athy then came right on time to see her papa for morning tea. Since she just wanted to see him, Claude teased that she didn't need any cake then, and she started sulking. But with a snap of his finger, the table was filled with all kinds of sweet cakes. Athanasia was beyond exhilarated. Tasting the chocolate first, it was absolutely delicious. It had been a while since she had some chocolate, and for some reason, chocolates had been going missing from the kitchen. She was so glad to have her father, because Lily wasn't even letting her have chocolates as well. Reminded of Felix's advice, Claude asked her if she wanted some friends of her age. If she did, he would allow her to choose who she wanted. But the princess told him she wasn't lonely. Athy didn't think she needed friends. She just wanted to live peacefully in the palace until she was 18. But to change her fate, she knew she needed magic. She remembered Lucas and wondered why he tried to stop her, making her speculate that the spell probably worked. She returned to the woods to try the spell again and could feel the chains of something locked breaking away. Lucas would catch her trying the forbidden spell again. Seeing her eyes, he started asking if she was a descendant of any of the old emperors, but knew they all died many years ago. He mentioned that those with clear, jeweled eyes were supposed to possess tremendous magical power, but he couldn't sense any in her. So, he asked how she shifted worlds, but Athy didn't understand what he meant by that. He would then lift her up on a vine and cause bubbles to appear, which took control of her mind. Athy answered his questions truthfully. She had no magical powers, which was why she wanted magic. Still, Lucas didn't believe her, so he let the vine go, causing her to fall. But Athy would be saved by a fluffy black cloud. Scared for her life, she suddenly cast wind magic that held Lucas in place. Seeing her success, she mocked the so-called Lord Lucas and ran away. While running back to tell her father, Athanasia's vision became blurry. And just as she got to her father and Felix, out of nowhere, she coughed up blood all over her hands. Then, she fell unconscious. Well, that escalated quickly. Even with there being a lot changed in this adaptation, most of the events seem to be going accordingly. Subscribe to keep up with next week's part. But for now, watch this next video. It's me, ComfyTea, and I'll see you all in the next one.